gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3 FM.
It's midday. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the news here on 3FM 92.7. We're coming to you live from our studio at Adesawe Kanda here in Accra. Tamale, we're live on Kesmi 107.1 FM. If you can hear us in WA, it's on W 93.5. Around the world, we're streaming live on 3news.com. Download the TuneIn app from the Google Play or Apple iOS store and listen to us on the go. Coming up this afternoon, Parliament urged not to be complicit in implementation of what organized labor describes as outrageous policies of government as the House prepares to consider 3 additional taxes.
Any new introduction of taxes is going to be an additional problem to workers in this very country. So I think that it should be reconsidered. Yes, we agree that government should raise money from taxes, but the level of the taxes is what I think that should be looked at.
Meanwhile, the minority has affirmed its resolve to reject the revenue bills even as government seeks their cooperation in getting the bills passed. Also this afternoon, Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee recommends passage of anti-LGBT bill under a new name, the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2021, with changes to portions of the original document. And later, 2020 campaign manager of governing New Patriotic Party, Peter McMahon, makes a case for a review of provisions governing by-elections, arguing parties be afforded the means to handpick members to fill a vacant parliamentary seat. We hear more from him, plus get expert opinion on the latest proposal. Details of these stories and a lot more if you stay with us for the next 30 minutes. A pleasure that you could be a part of this afternoon's bulletin. It's streaming live on Facebook. Our handles 3FM927 as well as on Twitter. Same handles 3FM927. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta. Let's get into the details because Parliament has been urged not to be complicit in the implementation of what organized labor describes as obnoxious policies of government to the detriment of the ordinary Ghanaian. This comes as the House is expected on Friday to consider and approve 3 additional revenue bills: the Income Tax Amendment Bill, Excise Duty Amendment Bill, and the Growth and Sustainability Levy Bill proposed in the 2023 budget. They are intended to help government rake in revenue as part of the IMF conditionality for a bailout. But the business community and organized labor have kicked against their introduction, describing them as outrageous, anti-business, and a threat to jobs. Already, they have petitioned Parliament to suspend the passage of the bills for further consultation. Well, on Wednesday, the Trades Union Congress reiterated its concerns about the new taxes. Joshua Ansah is Deputy Secretary General of the TUC.
At this stage, I think that it will be too late for me to say that Parliament shouldn't pass it, because I don't know where they have gotten to. But if it is possible that it can be stayed for some time, I would have loved it. But if it is not going to be stayed, then the quantum of the taxes must be re-looked at, so that it will not be a burden for workers of this very country and also the citizenry at large. Because now the economic situation in this country is not fine, it's not unbearable. It's unbearable for all people in this very country. When this 30% was awarded workers, these utility bills and so on came to erode everything off. So we are now in the negative stage. So any new introduction of taxes is going to be an additional problem to workers in this very country. So I think that it should be reconsidered. Yes, we agree that government should raise money from taxes, but the level of the taxes is what I think that should be looked at.
Joshua Ansah is Deputy Secretary General of the Trades Union Congress. While the minority in Parliament, they've affirmed their resolve to have the 3 revenue bills rejected after a caucus meeting this morning. The NDC minority in the past have registered their desire rejecting some key government positions, but failed to do so. The Tamale North MP says the minority has a fine opportunity to redeem itself.
We think that it is unacceptable to burden the already burdened Ghanaian with such taxes. And in any case, there is no any reason why government would want to burden the people of this country with, more taxes. These taxes they have nothing to do with the IMF, arrangement, and that is the story that have been, peddled out there. So we are very convinced, and sometimes one gets extremely worried to speak on this. The good thing is that this voting is not going to be done through a secret ballot. It's going to be an open ballot. So we are just hoping that we get our 136, and we are very convinced that the 136 are all going to vote against those taxes and any other thing they bring. I think that the people of this country, who unfortunately we have let down as a caucus with regards to how the voting was done on the approval of the ministers, we have an opportunity to let people understand that, of course, certain individuals within our ranks did so. That is not a reflective of the entire caucus.
That's Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed. He is Tamale North MP. But a statement has been issued today by the Ghana Federation of Labour, who are calling on Parliament to engage critical stakeholders prior to any action on the new taxes. Abraham Kumsin is General Secretary of the Federation. He's joined us on phone. Many thanks, Mr. Kumsin. Isn't it a bit too late with the House set to take a vote on these three new bills? These are proposals for broader consultation.
Oh, Mawuena, thank you for the opportunity to, continue to talk about this. You see, we've petitioned Parliament since 3rd February. So we realized that, they were going to deal with it. And it is not only our federation. Association of Ghana Industries, that's AGI, GUTA, the importers and exporters, food and beverages, they have all in Parliament. So it is not late. It's just that we are reminding them. It's a reminder so that they will, consider the issues that we raise.
Now, government is coercing the minority, seeking to have them join them in approving of these revenue bills. The conversation, if you listen to members of parliament and persons within government, has moved very well beyond stakeholder engagements. They are actually having conversations about passing this as quickly as possible. What hope is there for you as labor groups to see this not come through? Because from the indication we even get on the floor of the House, there's a marshalling of numbers from the majority side to see this through.
But you see, if the MPs, it's not about, the NDC MPs or NPP MPs. If they have the country, the welfare, the interest of the country at heart, they don't need some of us to talk about it. Because they know if we have economies there, those who've done accounting and all that, they know what is right for this country. Because what they are doing, as a layman, I realize that it appears they are missing the point. Why do you impose so many taxes like this? At the moment, the taxes that the industry, businesses are paying, we have about 17 of them. We have listed all in our petition that how can you expect, business, people to pay such taxes for them to remain in business and continue to employ your people? It's not possible. Even with what is happening, we've lost a lot of our members. Most of them are in town doing nothing. And so if we are going to, increase this burden by imposing these taxes, you must even find out, engage the stakeholders, these employers, and engage them to know their problems so that you can fashion something to help them so that they can, be able to survive. But just go ahead and impose it. Meanwhile, this same Parliament have raised serious issues about the competence of the finance minister. Even their own MP raise issues that the man is not competent. He must be removed. So somebody that is not doing well, then you continue approving his request for taxes. I can understand. This is about NDC matter. The NPP themselves, they are saying that the finance minister of Rata is not competent. The man is not correct. So why? Does it take the unions to tell Parliament to reverse these things that they are going to do?
Right, then.
The man is not going to apply the money prudently. He just wants the money to talk.
Right.
The IMF.
Mr. Gunze, I appreciate that you could speak to us. We'll come back to you because this is a subject that we'll continue to follow up on. On the other telephone line is Dr. Patrick Isumi. He's also joining us for a conversation because we've been hearing from government all throughout the week. The Information Minister, Kojo Nkrumah, spoke about the importance of the bill. And listeners must remember as well that the Finance Minister had projected that a failure to clinch the IMF deal by the end of March was going to see a collapse of the Ghanaian economy. Tomorrow is the 31st of March. It doesn't look like the IMF deal can be clinched by the 31st of March. Does this mean that the Ghanaian economy would collapse? Well, Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed seems to disagree. Thankfully, Dr. Patrick Isumi is on the phone with us. He's an economist and senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Doc, many thanks for speaking to us as well. Where do you stand in this conversation? Labour asking for broader stakeholder engagement because the ripple effect of these new taxes could be dire on their businesses, and the argument really, which is now being challenged, the argument from government that the economy risks collapsing should we not clinch the IMF deal with the taxes being an essential part of it.
Okay, good afternoon and good afternoon to the listeners. So, with or without this passing these three new tax measures, we are not going to get an IMF deal in March. So we should get that out of the way. Even if these get passed, we haven't secured the guarantees, the financial guarantees we need from our creditors. That is one of the key conditions before the IMF deal can go to the board for approval. So the idea that without this, we won't go to the IMF. It's become important, but we shouldn't use that to pause the matter and say we should pass it at all costs. Because if we don't pass it, we can't go to the IMF program. And if we don't go to the IMF program, the economy has collapsed. Because we will not get an IMF program this month. Then you have to look at the broader discussion about whether these three new measures are the only way for plugging our expenditure, our fiscal deficit for. And they aren't. We have raised our expenditure so much in the 2023 budget, and that has even expanded the size of the fiscal deficit. There are two sides to the deficit. There are revenue measures and there are expenditure measures. First of all, the government hasn't done enough on the expenditure measures. The 2023 expenditures was an increase, significant increase from what we had in 2022. So the question mark still remains about why, if you need to close the gap, the government is not doing anything to cut the expenditure more substantially. Then I will agree that we need to do more to raise the revenue envelope. There's no question about that. But you have to ask whether the specific tax measures that have been proposed are the ones that we need to expand the revenue envelope. Now, if you look, these tax measures they are only going to tax more the people that we are already been taxing.
Right.
And the concern has always been that let us broaden the net. And these new measures are simply looking for the shorter route to raising more revenue, rather than working harder to broaden the tax net.
So for you, the haste to which government and the majority side of parliament is seeking to push this through should be put on ice. We should put the brakes on and perhaps engage, like it's been suggested by the labor groups.
So not just engage, we have to find alternative ways. I think some of the taxes should be completely thrown out. So if you look at the three measures, the one that, I am a little more sympathetic to is part of the one of the growth and sustainability. But even they're not the full thing, because, you are going to impose taxes on company profits. If you said for the extractive sector, mining and the oil and gas, there's a general sense that these are non-renewable resources, and there's a general sense that we haven't collected enough revenue from our exploitation of those resources.
Right, Doc.
So I could understand why the government would say let's impose some form of windfall tax on them at a time where those products are doing relatively okay. But to say you are going to impose an additional levy on other businesses who are already facing very difficult times because of higher cost of doing business in the country, I think that's difficult to swallow.
Right then, Doc.
When you look at the income tax amendment bill, you get a sense that the government is trying to get more tax revenue from the rich.
Dr. Patrick Isumi is an economist and a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School. Unfortunately, we'll have to end the conversation here. Doc, we'll return to you for a lot more analysis on this, as this is a conversation that is not going to go away, and the expectation is that the bills might be taken tomorrow as well, and so there'll be room for a lot more expert opinion. Dr. Patrick Isumi there on the telephone line. We're moving away from this and away from Parliament just a short while, because this afternoon there are calls for a review of Ghana's laws to ensure political parties can handpick a member of the party to replace any member who dies while in office or vacates his seat. 2020 elections campaign manager of the NPP, Peter Mawuena, has been making a strong case for this provision at an IEA forum days after NPP MP for Kumewu, Philip Atabazua, passed on. According to Mr. Mawuena, the move would deal with the acrimony and hostilities that characterizes by-elections in Ghana in the event a sitting MP dies or vacates their seat.
On the death of a member of parliament or a vacancy occurs in parliament, the clerk of parliament shall notify the electoral commission in writing within 7 days after the vacancy occurred, and a by-election shall be held within 30 days after the vacancy has occurred. United States is the mother of all multi-party democracies in the world. And I recall, or all of us will recall, that in 2008, when President Obama, as a senator, was elected as president in December, his seat as a senator was filled by the Democratic Party. It wasn't filled by a by-election. So we are saying that when a person dies, or for whatever reasons, resignation, the party that brought him into parliament during the general election must be given the opportunity, like the United States does, to replace him, so that the acrimony, the costs, etc., associated with by-elections will be a thing of the past.
That's Peter Mawuena. He is the 2020 campaign manager of the governing New Patriotic Party. Let's get on the phone now. Professor Ransford Jampo is a professor of political science at the University of Ghana. He's joined us on phone for a conversation. Professor Jampo, many thanks. Is this a workable proposal for the country, as has been suggested by the NPP's 2020 campaign manager? Hello, Prof.
What did he say? Yeah.
I'm asking if these proposals are workable as suggested.
What are the proposals? I didn't hear him talking.
Right, so he's making the case strongly that political parties be afforded the opportunity to handpick members from within the party to replace a candidate who vacates his seat or dies for a parliamentary seat, rather than the country going through the process of a by-election. That's the argument, really. Unfortunately, it appears we have a challenge with the telephone line. We'll try one more time and reconnect with Professor Ransford Jampo. He struggled to hear us. Dr. Rashid Draman is the Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. He's also been reacting to this particular comment.
Our constitution doesn't allow that. And a call for the revision of the constitution, I think, is in order. But I don't know whether, the whole electoral system will need to be revised. Otherwise, in terms of cost, in terms of, cost, first of all, financial, in terms of cost to Ghanaian lives, because we've seen what happened at the Iowa Sobogon by-election and all the consequences and so on and so forth. So it's a call in the right direction. I don't know what is needed, whether just simply tinkering with the Constitution is enough, or we have to go and touch our electoral system. I think there are many who have called for some changes to our electoral system to, for instance, move away from this first past the post to maybe a proportional representation kind of system.
That's Dr. Rashid Draman. We're working the phone lines again to reach Professor Ransford Jampo. Unfortunately, the lines did not help us when we reached him earlier. But still on Parliament and the conversations around it, to a controversial subject that has been hanging around Parliament over the last few years is the legal and constitutional affairs work on the anti-LGBT bill. Well, the committee has recommended for the passage of the anti-LGBTQ plus bill under a new name, Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2021. The committee in its report says it has considered the opinion of the Attorney General and factored it in its report in the human rights of all persons that must be respected. Komla Kluche is our parliamentary affairs correspondent. He's joined us on phone with a lot more details. So Komla, first off, is there an understanding as to when this would be laid before the House?
Well, the expectation is that today the report of the committee will be laid. If it's laid, then the next thing it needs to do is to consider the proposed amendment. After the proposed amendment is considered, then a third reading will be done, and then the bill will be finally passed for the president to assign his signature to it. But it's unclear if the proposed amendment will be done with before the House arrives. From indication, the proposed date for them going on break is tomorrow, the 31st. It doesn't appear also that they will be able to carry out all the businesses. Remember, they have about 2 or 3 major items to deal with: the revenue bills and also the constitutional instruments, and then also the LGBT issue. All of this cannot be done before tomorrow, and then they will rise thereafter. So it presupposes that we might be seeing Parliament going beyond tomorrow. Probably Tuesday thereabouts, they may be rising and would have the considerations done. But even with this, the proposed amendment may not be able to be done with before they rise on the issue of the anti-LGBT.
Just briefly on some of the changes that have been seen on the proposed recommendations from the committee, what are some of the significant ones?
They have over 25 proposed amendments that they are supposed to look at, and they'll take them clause by clause. For instance, on the issue of keeping a brothel, what's going to be done is that they will be doing in the parliamentary parlance. We use the word delete insert. So they'll be deleting and inserting some words and all that, but that will be after they've had a back and forth debate on it. For instance, the issue of keeping a brothel for prohibited sexual act. The person commits a misdemeanor if the person keeps or manages or assists in the management of a brothel for the purpose of sexual activity prohibited under this act, being a tenant lessee or occupier or person in charge of premises knowingly permits the premises or a part of the premises to be used as a brothel for the purpose of sexual activity is prohibited under this act, or being the lessor or landlord of any premises or the agent of a lessor or landlord lets the premises or part of the premises with the knowledge of the person. It's quite a lot.
Right.
For instance, there's also the part of where they say a person through the media technology.
That's the bit on advocacy.
You cannot be promoting, the LGBTQ activity, when through the use of electronic media, or even disseminating information regarding any material directed at a child, whether directly or indirectly, with the intent to evoke the interest of the child, is prohibited under this act. It's quite a lot
right.
to respect today. The provisions have also been made with the sanctions and all that in it.
Komla, we'll come back to you for a lot more. That's Komla Kluche, he's a parliamentary affairs correspondent speaking to us this afternoon. We're moving away from this to some other matters now. A flag bearer hopeful of the opposition National Democratic Congress, John Dramani Mahama, says the next NDC government under his leadership will cancel a closed season for artisanal farmers. According to him, the move taken by the current government to enforce the closed season policy on fishers was a bad one that has worsened the plight of fishers and other major players within the fishing industry.
I'm fine for your bar and says your papa, Naprosa Mills, as you say, Munya premix, Munya fishing inputs, your Bremo outboard motors, and it's on your money now. Your buy the San Shishano, Ebesaba, and my cousin said MP NDC bar by moi. NDC didn't name not your bar by moi. Some rana a year close season no, and affected small fishermen. Almost we use canoes no, a big trawlers no, and a close season. Yampede and Mamunye Juma, and so yemi animal canoe fishermen, artisanal fishermen. The ombetimi atwaso. If you say near omo and a saipono, a trawler can see no and a saipono. Yes, 6 nautical miles. Ma omo beche and namoho. And so Benjamin Puano, no one will say omo chenam within 6 nautical miles. Ya preso near man navy for HSC omo. Afenso de omo to be here obia nya omo.
That's the former President John Dramani Mahama essentially saying that his government, when elected into office, will provide better incentives for fisher folks to ensure a booming trade for them. Now, away from this, out of 32 doctors posted to the Bono region to deliver health service to the people there, only 9 reported. The Bono Regional Director of Health Services, Dr. Fred Adomakubuate, has described the development as worrying, saying the region currently is in critical need of doctors to save lives. Speaking on the sidelines of an annual performance review held by the Bono East Regional Health Directorate on Wednesday, the health director appealed for swift interventions to rectify the situation.
2021, the geographical equity index was 0.1, but this year the geographical equity index is 0.04. We have numbers. For the first time in Bono East, more than 20 doctors decided that they will come. They called that they wanted to come and work in Bono East. At the end of the day, as we are speaking now, it's only 14 doctors who are posted. And the question is, if we have 14 doctors, extra what we had last year, how come we have a challenge in the equity index? This is what we call starvation in the midst of plenty. The reason is that when they are posted to where their services are really, really much needed, my friends, there is nowhere for these doctors to lay their head. So we in turn end up bringing them to districts that are well endowed, and that is offsetting our geographical equity index. So the question is, what are
That's the Bono Regional Director of Health, Dr. Fred Adomako Boate, ending this afternoon's edition of the news here on 3FM 92.7. As always, a lot more news when you log on to 3news.com. Sani Abdul Rahman is on standby to bring us the very latest from the world of business. I am Eric Mawuena Egbeta. A pleasure that you could be a part of this afternoon's bulletin.
Many thanks for your time this afternoon. My name is Sani Abdurrahman and welcome to the business news. Now, we start from the banking sector because despite the negative impact of the domestic debt exchange program on the banking industry, Zenith Bank Ghana remains one of the well-capitalized banks. The bank's parent company in Nigeria has recently announced it has set aside over $250 million in part to cater for impaired losses that may arise from the debt exchange. 3 Business earlier reported the funds were set aside for recapitalization, but our further checks show the banks is solid. We called up on Dr. Abuaji Deborah, our in-house financial consultant, and asked him what it means to set aside funds for impairment losses.
About impairment charges, it's like a normal operating expenses that we make towards our books during the financial reporting period. Now, basically, what banks, it's just like a normal loan when the loan is not on schedule. So the reporting period, you try to make some provisioning to the asset book. Now, basically, the debt exchange program is a similar thing. When the repayment was due or rescheduled, it means that the entire asset book needs to be provisioned. Now, most banks have provisioned or have impaired their loan book or asset book. Basically, this is a bond. And that's what basically Zenith did. But the beauty is that out of this expense, their risk cost, which went up by from 1.9% to about 3.2%, even though it doubled. Notwithstanding, Zenith Bank capital adequacy is above regulatory minimum capital adequacy, which is 10%. And that is the beauty of the whole entire Zenith picture. So when you say Zenith Bank have revamped because of the debt issue, it gives a wrong picture if you don't explain what the concept is about. So basically what they have done is that they have cleaned their book, they have repositioned the balance sheet, and it's healthy, it's solvent. When we say solvent, it means that it's well capitalized, so there's no cause for alarm for customers, and therefore they are liquid and they are.
Dr. Deborah is our in-house analyst. Now, pensioner bondholders have threatened to resume picketing the finance ministry if government fails to do its promise of honoring their coupons and principal payments. This follows government continuous delay in paying their outstanding arrears after it promised to exempt all pensioners from its domestic debt exchange program, but several weeks after government is yet to fulfill its promises. In a statement issued by the forum a while ago, it expressed grave disappointment in the finance minister, describing government actions as a deviation from the market dictates for the treatment of holders of exempted bonds. The forum says several letters to the finance minister to make due its payments have not been heeded too. Now, some equities on the Ghana Stock Exchange are rebounding after the market recorded a negative growth last year despite the lingering uncertainty. The development, according to the managing director of the exchange, signals that investors want to explore stocks as a means to diversify their portfolios. Mr. Abinamwa said such positivity would help grow the equity market while enhancing access to long-term capital for the private sector.
Our investors are again looking at the equities asset class. So there's been a lot of interest in MTN shares. There's been a lot of interest in the petroleum sector. There's been a lot of interest in the agriculture sector led by Ben's Oil Palm. We have one gold-backed ETF from South Africa, New Gold. There's been a lot of interest in that as well. So we are seeing investors looking at the equity sector or the equity segment of the market as an alternative, as somewhere to not put all their eggs in one basket, but also to look at that. For us, our aim, as I keep saying, is to diversify the market, is to diversify the companies, is to bring more companies here.
Abinamwa is Managing Director of the Ghana Stock Exchange. Now, let's go to the mining sector because there have been a lot of concerns over the revenue bills before Parliament, which includes the Growth and Sustainability Levy, which seeks to charge 1% of gross production of mining companies and, of course, players across the extractive industry. Now, many are of the view that this may impact the investor confidence in the mining sector, and that may lead to some sort of disinvestment. But former President of the Ghana Chamber of Mines and has been speaking on this issue, and he says they still have confidence in Ghana's mining sector despite the fiscal challenges.
We've had 20 years and over each in this jurisdiction. We are here because we have confidence in Ghana as a mining jurisdiction. When I read out my comments and statements, I did touch on the fact that we see it as a preeminent jurisdiction in the mining industry, and that's why we are here. And that's why we can also look forward 20 years down the line, right, with this joint venture. There would be challenges that come in at certain times, but those would always be short-term challenges. We are able to look beyond that and to see the bigger long-term picture. And that bigger long-term picture is a positive one, in my view.
Mr. Sibonten is former president of the Ghana Chamber of Mines. Now, Director of Financial Markets at the Bank of Ghana, Stephen Opata, has reaffirmed the Gold for Oil program and has said has contributed to almost 50% drop in ex-palm prices. We will be telling you more on that. But let me take you to the money market because investor interest in treasury bills declined last week as the government missed its auction targets by nearly 24%. Some analysts fear the government could again miss its reduced target of 1.3 billion cedis for this week, following an increase in the policy rate from 28% to 29.5%. Speaking to 3 Business, market analyst Kojo Lecha said the latest development would make treasury bills less attractive.
It's highly likely that the government may miss the target. Now, they may meet the target if they prop up the rate. That is if, because with regards to T-bills, it's still competitive in the bidding amongst the banks. So if the banks come with their rate and the government still picks it up, it will then draw up the weighted average rate. So it depends on what will happen. The banks go with their rate, and if the government decides that it can take it, it can accommodate it, why not? If not, and it gets turned down, these excess funds are all going to OMO, which, I mean, it makes sense. FD rates are going to be in competition with T-bills in the sense that obviously the bank, when they get the money, they can invest at a higher yield. So they'll prop up their FD rates. So if the government is giving you, let's say, 18.9% for a 91-day T-bill, the bank can offer, say, 21% for a 91-day investment. They pick the client's money and go and invest it at a yield of 28% on the OMO market.
Kojeleta is a market analyst, and in the business news this afternoon, we'll be back at 5:30 on Hot Edition with the latest from the world of business, and of course on TV3 at 4:30 you'll want to join us for Biz Brief as we engage leading industry players over happenings in the economy. A big day for the economy, a big day for the government that is seeks to get some outstanding revenue measures passed in Parliament, which is part of the prior actions in order for the government to get the much needed IMF bailout. To keep our eyes there and bring you the very latest. My name is Sani Abdurrahman. Enjoy the rest of the program with Black Rasta.